Just give me a second. It's generating a live link. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. I'm Rabia Akhtar. I'm Director, Center for Security Strategy and Policy Research at University of Lahore. Here we are with another conversation and part of our Young Leaders Program series. And I'm really delighted that I have two excellent panelists here who are going to talk about what's happening in Pakistan and where is Pakistan headed. So let me first introduce our guests. Our first guest is Hassan Aslam Shad. He's a graduate of Harvard Law School, US, with a Master's of Law in 2007 with a focus on international law and corporate law. He is a legal director at CMS McKenna, a global top 10 international law firm. Over the years, Hasan has advised Fortune 500 companies and leading multinationals and corporates on cross-border multi-million-dollar M&A transactions, power and energy, IT and real estate and infrastructure, tourism, aviation, mining, and dispute resolution. Hasan has been based in the MENA region for over 14 years, working throughout the various jurisdictions of the GCC, wider MENA region, and the UK. Hasan is the proponent of Lawfare in Pakistan and has advised the government of Pakistan on various themes and topics of lawfare in both public and private international law. Welcome to CSSPR Conversation Series, Hasan. It's really great to have you here.
Thank you very much.
Our second guest today is Noaman Abdul Majid, a qualified chartered accountant from Pakistan and UK. Noaman is the CEO of Olswang Global, which is a regional strategy consulting firm. He has served as country manager Oman at Pak Oman Investment Company. He has headed financial advisory at Emirates Global Islamic Bank. He's been AVP investment banking at Pak Oman Investment Company and various other portfolios. He has experience of corporate finance, development finance, corporate governance, foreign investment, public sector restructuring, strategic business and finance management, social welfare, and international business relations. So welcome to CSSPR Conversation Series, Noaman.
Thank you, Dr. Rabia.
All right.
Do you want one of us to begin now?
Yes, so the format is, I think Noaman dropped out, he's going to rejoin. Our format for today is that I would like you to speak, make your opening remarks, and then Noaman, once he joins us, to make his opening remarks, and then we'll open for Q&A. So without further ado, over to you, Hasan.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rabia. It's an honor, a privilege for me to be joining this very interesting webinar, shall I say. I wish when I was a child, when I was in school, when I was in college, I had speakers who could come and encourage me, who could give me a few words of encouragement, who could tell me where I'm headed, what is it that I see in front of me. So I'll try my level best to give you some sense of what is it that I foresee for the youth of Pakistan, and I'll give a little bit of a comparison with my generation and how my generation did not have the privilege and the luxury that you all have today. So allow me to firstly say that Pakistan stands at the cusp of a positive change. We are one of those very few countries which has a youth bulge. Many young, talented professionals from different walks of life have commenced their life journey. They're looking to be at the forefront in terms of their own professional development. They want to be they want to be the captains of their ship. They want to be those in life who want to deliver, who want to achieve what they have set out to achieve, and what they're looking at is some sort of a future that promises them the idea where they can achieve what they have set out to achieve. Now, back in my time, things were not this rosy. I'm part of a generation where we did not have social media. We did not have cell phones like we all do today. We had a few teachers who would show us the guidance, who would show us the light, who would tell us, this is what you want to do. You want to study hard and all that. But times have now changed. Now, in terms of today, I think the biggest asset that each one of you, when I say each one of you, I mean all the youth of Pakistan have is they have before them tremendous knowledge. It's all about how they want to tap into that knowledge. Because look, there is a fundamental difference between information and knowledge. If you open Google, for example, it will take you to 10,000 or a million websites, which can give you an idea of whatever you're looking for. But you have to be sensible. You have to understand that not all information is knowledge, and not all knowledge is wisdom. So you have to keep these things in mind. You don't want to get swamped by information, lose sight of your aims and objectives in life. You want to be able to take out as much knowledge as you can, whatever field you're into, whatever area of, let's say you're a lawyer, you want to become an aspiring lawyer, then you have to look in the right direction. You should be able to take out the information that will be knowledge for you that you can use for yourself, for your future, and then devise your career. Now, in terms of a revolution, and this is the theme that we have given to us today, I do believe that Pakistan is at the cusp of positive change, as I mentioned earlier, and youth have a tremendous role to play in this. One of the areas that I've been encouraging a lot of young professionals, young students, is to consider law as a discipline. And the reason why I say that is not because I'm a lawyer and I see law as some sort of a discipline which gives you more than what other disciplines offer you in life. No, that's not true. But law is one discipline that teaches you how change takes place at the grassroots level, or what is it that you need to do as a student to bring about that change, to be the harbinger of change in order to introduce something positive in society. If you are a lawyer, if you are a law student, you will know what is the point of origin of change. So, for example, if there is in a country, you do not have a piece of legislation that benefits you or your group or your community, then as a lawyer, you will know which door to knock on and how to bring about that change in society. So this is one of the benefits of being a lawyer. So keep that in mind. I'm not going to hold you on that. If you don't want to become a lawyer, that's completely your call. There are hundreds of other disciplines. A young professional, if you want to be part of Pakistan's revolution for positive change, is for you never to look for shortcuts in life. I see a lot of young students looking for shortcuts. I see a lot of students looking for quick fixes. They want to achieve something overnight, which normally doesn't take, that takes at least a few years. Remember, there are no shortcuts in life. You have to go through the grind. You have to become that professional in life. It will take you 10, 15, 20,000 pages of text to be able to become some sort of an authority in any discipline. I'm now 44. I consider myself to be a student of law. I am by no means an expert. I am by no means a specialist. It will take you a lifetime to be able to become what you want to become in life. So never let anything get to your head. Don't look for shortcuts in life. Don't believe people who offer you quick fixes. Life is a journey. In this journey, you are going to have to work hard. Now, another very important uh, message I want to convey to all of you young professionals who are now hopefully going to be leading change in Pakistan, who are going to be the ambassadors of change in Pakistan, is that give back to society. When you give back to society, the forces of nature, they come together and they help you towards your goal. When I say give back to society, I do not mean that you have to give back necessarily financially. No. If you know something, if you know an art, for example, you're a good talker, Allah has gifted you with public speaking skills. Allah has gifted you with something else. Even if you're an agnostic, even if you don't believe in God, believe in fate, believe in destiny, believe in karma, believe that what goes around comes around. Give back to people, help them out. And the moment you help them out, the forces of nature are going to help you towards your pursuit. Try and give back to society. One thing that I have unfortunately not seen in Pakistan is my generation and the one before mine did not do enough for society. So, in all fairness, all of you should have been on a public scholarship in Pakistan. All our students should have been studying for free in Pakistan if my generation and the generation before mine had done something to invest in our future. What you will now have to change is you have to start giving back to society so that it inculcates a belief in the people that we all are part of a larger system in which, unless we give back, we will not grow. So this is something I've realized over time. These are harsh messages that I've learned, harsh lessons, but try to give back to society. And lastly, reach out to people who are sincere to you. For example, you have Dr. Rabia, you have Ali, he's like a younger brother to me. Talk to people, bounce your ideas off of them. Start writing, do some research, become an expert in your area. Life is an endless sea of opportunities. Pick up a topic. If it fascinates you, write on it. There is hardly anything more beneficial in this world than writing. Writing hones your drafting skills. It makes you an expert. You become heard all over the world. Take an area and start writing. And remember, if you do not know what is it that you need to do in life, you are perfectly fine and you are very normal. To this day, I'm struggling to find my destiny in life. Although I'm giving this speech, I don't know what destiny has in store for me. Maybe after 3 or 4 years, I may be doing something different. But the idea that you have to bear in mind is have faith, be persistent, be consistent, be part of that revolution which is going to take you forward in life and never look back. And always ask your difficult questions. Never feel shy to ask your questions. Now, what I'll expect from you guys is through Dr. Rabia, I will get a list of questions that will start a conversation between us. And I want to be a part of your change as you grow in life, inshallah. Dr. Rabia, I think I've given enough of an intro, and now I'll pass the mic to you, and you can take it to Noaman, and then we'll take the Q&A.
Thank you so much, Hasan, for such positivity and enthusiasm. And that was the purpose of our doing this conversation to begin with. But before I move to Noaman, I want you to consider something that I'll get back to you after Noaman's opening remarks, is that, so the topic, yes, was Pakistan's soft revolution. But I would want you to talk to our students and broader audience as to, whether Pakistan is at the cusp of a revolution, or has Pakistan already reached a point where we can say, we have been hearing this term soft revolution for years now. What are some of the characteristics of the soft revolution that you see, and what is youth's role in it? So just think about these things, and I'll get back to you. And I'll now move to Noaman, who's joined us from Karachi. So over to you, Noaman. My simple, questions to you will also be, you look at geoeconomics. Please talk to us about, should we be despondent about Pakistan's geoeconomic future? Does Pakistan have the potential? You've looked at Pakistan's national security policy. How would you link the direction that's been set in national security policy, that Pakistan can become the hub of regional connectivity? So talk to us about that. Over to you, Noaman.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. My voice is clear, Rabia? Okay, I believe my voice is clear. Thanks for this opportunity. And the title is Soft Revolution. And I always firmly believe that revolution does not happen overnight. So there's always a context, there's a history of revolution. So wherever Pakistan stands today in terms of politics or economy, have to look at it in at last 20, 25 years perspective. Just like whenever Chinese talk about the history, they talk about 1949 as the year of independence and 1979 as the year of the beginning of the reforms. The one finder, you know, maybe some 2020s or 22 or 23, 20 years down, the Pakistanis maybe talking about, okay, that was the year when we started the reform process or the soft revolution process. Because my definition of soft revolution is in a systematic reform, basically. So I think there's revolution, just like what we read in history, the likes of French and Russian revolutions. And then there's a very slow systematic improvement process. So soft revolution somewhere lies in between, number one. The first thing is that since there are a lot of students over here, what I feel in the Pakistani economy and the decision-making process, that we don't like to things really in the perspective that wherever we stand, why we have reached this stage over a period of 20, 25 years. The reason I'm reiterating is that any economy, wherever it stands today, it takes that shape over a period of 2 decades. Like Pakistan is offering, whatever the illnesses the Pakistani economy is suffering from, we have developed these problems due to underinvestment in the key sectors of the economy and society during last 20 years. For example, our literacy rate has been stagnant almost, I would say, for last 10-ish years. The average literacy rate as per the last economic survey was around 65%. And that's the total number. We are not talking about the quality. Pakistan's FDI is one of the lowest in the region and among the developing countries. Like, for example, Pakistan gets an annual FDI of $1.5 billion. Compared to that, India gets $50 billion. The Vietnam gets $16 billion. The Bangladesh and Cambodia are in the range of $4 billion. So why is it that we can't immediately in the short term go up to $3 to $5 billion? So from a political economic perspective, if you link both the things, so of course we have heard a lot about the 5-year economic planning. But if you look at the last 5 years of Pakistan, we have 5 prime ministers or 7 or 8 finance ministers and a dozen maybe finance secretaries. So you can imagine that when we talk about the economic planning and the long-term economic planning, if the country has 5 prime ministers and 7 or 8 finance ministers, then what kind of, even the short-term economic planning is not possible. What is the global challenge that we are facing today with the IMF? The IMF in different countries, they say that, okay, one find every 3 or 4 months, after every year or so, there's a new finance minister who comes and talks to us and gives us an assurance that, okay, we are going to basically implement all the agenda. Yesterday, I was going through the press release of State Bank of Pakistan and Ministry of Finance. It's a 4-page, very professionally drafted document, but it clearly says the government is determined to complete its political term till October 2023, and that's what we have to IMF. So you imagine on one way we have just had a change in Punjab. So if we assume for a second that the federal government insists on lingering on and there are no fresh elections announced, then what will be the result? There will be confrontation, there will be a lot of political uncertainty. So I think these are the factors which need to be looked at before we go on the specifics of the economy, that why Pakistan has been lagging behind. The fundamental issues remain the same. We have very high imports. Okay, Pakistan's import bill was $80 billion last year. We are importing around $35 billion. We have not invested in things like education. Our global branding, marketing is very poor. So I can go on in more details when we go on with our session. But these are some of the political and economic problems that we have been facing. There is a clear lack of strategic planning. And now I think that although Pakistan suffers from, as I said, short, medium, long-term planning, but we have to, there's another dimension of economic planning that we have to introduce, and that is the economic planning from the perspective of economic security. If you look at the National Security Policy document, it spoke about economic security, but I think economic security at a very high level was discussed in that. I think that, and again, when we progress further, I'll discuss this concept in more detail. I know some of my friends may not agree about it, but I feel this is the way forward. So we need to form an economic security council with all the key stakeholders, when we identify the key projects which are essential for the survival of the economy, and we ensure that those projects are implemented at whatever cost in next 3 to 5 years. We can discuss this concept further. So I think this concept of economic security should be institutionalized in the coming days to take the country forward. Otherwise, if we just keep fighting with each other, there is no medium term. I'm not talking about long term. Even there is no medium term political economic certainty and clear roadmap, I think we'll be into deeper troubles. But as Allama Iqbal has said, कि अमल से जिंदगी बनती है, जन्नत भी जहन्नम भी, ये खाकी अपनी फितरत में न नूरी है न नारी है. तो बात ये कि possibilities all exist. You asked it should be responded. There is no reason to be responded. Everything can be fixed. It's just a matter of how do we manage the internal affairs of the economy. Whenever people talk to me about the external hand, Bairuni Sajish, I always say that Bairuni Sajish and external hand are always basically taking advantage of your internal weaknesses. They are not doing anything on their own. So I think it's time that we put our house in order. Automatically, rest will come to rest of things automatically will come into place.
All right, thank you so much, Noaman. My only question to you going forward, and then we'll take Q&A, is that why hasn't Pakistan figured out that it needs an economic security council? Why, at this point in time, are economists or people who look at Pakistan's geoeconomic profile are thinking about it right now? Is it a systemic issue? Is it a leadership issue? Why haven't we gotten things done already?
It's both a systematic issue, and it's a leadership issue as well, that the vested interests are very high. There are too many stakeholders to be taken care of. And as I said, the political continuity, looking at things in the ad hoc. My own problem, whenever I deal with the policymakers, the leadership, whether it's in the establishment or the political parties, whosoever, I think they are myopic, unfortunately. They don't like to plan. Their attention span is very low. They don't like to go into the details of economic planning. When you talk about details, when you go and discuss things, then automatically what happens, then you learn, you dig deep into that. But in Pakistan, the problem what I've seen is basically people don't like to go into details of whatever they are talking about. As I said, for example, we speak about education. Pakistan is, in terms of tertiary education, Pakistan is ranking one of the lowest in the world. Why is it that? Like, if you ask me one single reason why Pakistan is lagging behind, in terms of the economic progress or whatever, for so many years, the single biggest is the education. And education is one thing which pays you dividend over a period of next around 10 years or so. So we have to prepare our workforce. We have to get them ready for the next generation, whether it's 4 IR or the 4 IR, the baat ki baat hai. For example, we have to, even if we reach the 3rd IR, 3rd industrial revolution or whatever it is, then basically we have to invest in our education on war footing. Now, as we dig deep into it, like, where is the problem? Do we have enough institutions in the country? And the issue is the affordability, or we don't have enough institutions in the country. For example, Pakistan ki jo, I would say the top universities in Pakistan, we have a population of 230 million people, 23 crore people. But if you take the list of the decent quality, top, or even say top quality by national standard institution, it's very difficult to make a list of 23 institutions as well as tamam disciplines ko mila ke. So basically, we need, agar hum education ki baat kar le, we need more institutions, we need more faculty, we need to train our workforce, as I said, on our war footing, so on and so forth. So these are the things we have to look at it from the lens of the economic security. Okay, now the investing in education, investing in technology is not a matter of basically just a political slogan or just a matter of economic growth. It's a matter of national survival. Because I believe that national sovereignty depends upon the national security, and national security depends upon the economic security. So economic security is the root cause of all national sovereignty, security, and whatever you talk about. So I think that now it's time that we, the stage where we have reached, we have to look at things from the national security perspective. Otherwise, you see the currency depreciating during last 4 months by 40%. Inflation is running so high, it's almost 40% inflation. So these are all the ingredients for our social chaos. So we have to, it's a matter of country survival. We see what's happening in Balochistan today, because Balochistan, unfortunately, has one of the lowest human development indicators in the world. So you can imagine that whether it's the flooding or the security issues or whatever it is because Balochistan has one of the lowest. The human development indicators of Balochistan are almost in the line of sub-Saharan Africa. So on one hand, we have Pakistans of the Lahore and Karachi and Islamabad, the elite areas. And on one hand, we have the same Pakistan of the Chad and Somalia and all those places. So unfortunately, we have to plug in the gaps, and we have to be very focused on what we need to achieve, because now It's now or never. Either we put our house in order, or the country will suffer irreversible losses in the near future, unfortunately.
Thank you so much, Noaman. It is a bleak picture, but we do need, some ray of hope. Let me get back to Hasan before we open the Q&A. Hasan, to the questions I posed you earlier, has the revolution already happened, or are we still standing at the cusp of it? What does it look like? Over to you.
It's a difficult one for me to answer. And I've been thinking about it. Are we going through a fast-tracked evolution, or are we entering into a revolution? Because it really depends on how you see it. I've reached a conclusion. Again, this is something that is my conclusion based on looking at the scenario in the last 5 to 7 years. I do believe that we have entered into a revolution. And I'll tell you why I believe it's a revolution and not a fast-tracked evolution. Evolution is something in which you go through a transition based on a certain, in a phase-wise methodology or a phase-wise process. For example, if you look at the growth of a butterfly, you have a process called a metamorphosis. You see, it's an insect that ends up becoming a butterfly. There is a process that it goes through. Revolutions, on the other hand, do not have to follow that trajectory per se. They can in something unprecedented and unthinkable within a very short period of time. And this is what I believe we have now reached, because there is a youth bulge in Pakistan. There are millions of youth who have entered the workforce, who are looking for a brighter future. They want the state to guarantee, underwrite their future, literally underwrite their future, because they believe that the state as the mother owes them certain rights and certain privileges, which is nothing unusual at all, Dr. Rabia. It happens in the US, in the UK, in all of the countries in the world. So now, yes, we have entered a revolution because people know what their rights are all about. They know what they want to ask for. And if these youth are not taken care of, then this would not be good for our future. Because if you look at the Arab Spring, for example, and other similar events that happened recently in history, it was primarily the result of a youth whose demands and whose aspirations had been unfulfilled. I'm by no means suggesting, I'm by no means saying that Pakistan is sitting on the cusp of its own Arab revolution. Don't get me Arab revolution. Don't get me wrong, but I do see seeds of that having been sown in Pakistan. So now it is up to the state as to how it taps into the youth. It gives them a better future, makes them a part of the journey of Pakistan's progress. I think Noaman made an excellent point that if you look at Pakistan's academia, we hardly have, a few universities that we can count on our fingers. Today, what sustains America and other Western countries are not their tanks, their missiles, their, technology per se. It is their academia. It is the institutions which form the bedrock. They are the foundational stone on which entire countries are erected. And this is what we have to think of as a country. We need to give rights to institutions that can play the role of a mother, that can be the umbrella under which the youth can come forward, pursue their dreams, find a future. And I'm fearful that unless and until we do that, our youth are not going to have a good future, and our youth will find themselves without that protection that comes with the state protection. And Dr. Rabia, allow me to just conclude by saying that, a state is like a mother's embrace. A state has to nurture the youth. She has to make sure that their future is protected. They're given the direction in life that they deserve. So unless and until we do that, then our youth are not going to feel that Pakistan is the country to which they belong.
Thank you so much, Hasan, for your comments. I completely agree, but I would say a state is as good or bad as its leaders. Leaders are the ones that make a state, and they are the ones who need to take it in a direction. You're very right, and Noaman is very right. The West, I believe, with respect to universities in Pakistan, the West, I believe, is, and I've been telling this to my students, our doctoral students as well, that, we as a nation are knowledge consumers. We hardly generate new knowledge. West is creating new knowledge about us, and we are just happily consuming it, rather than telling them that nobody knows us better than we ourselves, but we need to come out in the literature for them to quote us. And for that, we need to read, and for that, we need to write. And that is not happening enough in Pakistan. So thank you for pointing that out. I would now like to move to some of the Q&A session, and let's hear from some of our participants. Over to you, Fazil Ilahi Bilal. Please unmute yourself. Bilal, you need to unmute yourself.
I'm audible, madam?
Yes, now you are.
Okay, thank you, madam. First of all, thanks, madam, and both the speaker to provide such a learning session. I have two questions. My primary question is related to the political and mindset context of Pakistan's soft revolution, and second is institutional reform context. Primary question is, do you think that without uplifting people of Balochistan addressing their grievances, whether the dream of the soft Pakistan is as easy as it looks? And my second question is on the academic and institutional reform context, that at present Pakistan having a 4 parallel academic system: elite English medium, government sector, and then eventually Madaris. Now, there is. Do you think that the times come to include the Madaris into the mainstream, doing two things? Please enlighten this. First of all, government should ensure that Madaris should revamp the religious needs and issues like human organ transplantation, religious interpretation. And secondly, the government must, without the paper of English of 200 or some, and such kind of, this is an example like in professional institutions like engineering, medical, and nursing, the people who have Madaris degree and engineering degree, they are, after 2 years, they are appearing in any public sector university and giving a one paper of English and then eventually become a BSc degree. So in this context, please enlighten.
Thank you, Fazil. I think your voice was cutting off a lot. So probably we can take your second question, but your first question I couldn't hear properly. It was about relieving people from drought situation in Balochistan. Can you please write that down in the chat box? And we will get.
Can I repeat the first question?
Please write it down in the chat box. Okay.
Okay. That's nice.
Right.
Okay.
All right.
Fine.
Hasan or Noaman, which one of you want to talk about mainstreaming Madaris?
Okay, fine. Okay, Fazal, thanks for your question. If you know about Silani Welfare Trust, it's Pakistan's largest NGO at the grassroots level. I am sitting on the board of directors and I am the chairman of the education committee. So I have a lot of interaction with the students of the Madaris. So I can firsthand relate to basically what you are saying. Because I do a lot of work with them to modernize these Madaris. The answer is that first of all, we have to look at the both positive and negative. That Madaris are the largest charity and the philanthropic network in Pakistan. They provide food and shelter to the most underprivileged, most deprived students from the country, people who do not have access to food or education in any form otherwise. Now, the flip side is basically anybody who is feeding them, with whom the students are living for 10, 12 years, they are giving them their ideology as well. Now, I'm not going to get into whether the ideology is right or wrong or whatever it is, or which sect is doing what. There's a different debate altogether. But the thing is that this is what madaris are. There are hundreds of thousands of students graduating from madaris. I think, if I am not wrong, at any point in time, there are millions, of course. I just know about Wafaqul Madaris. Recently, there was a tweet from some mufti that 300,000 plus students sat in their exams in just 1 year. So you can imagine that there are millions of students studying in madrasas, and even those who are doing Dars al-Nizami, they run into maybe close to 600,000, if I'm not wrong. Number one. The thing is that how do we reform the madrasa system? Your observations are right. And we are doing a lot of work with the madaris students and giving them the opportunities to pursue higher degree of education. Myself and Hassan knows about it. We do a lot of this work together as well. The thing is that, first of all, is the mentoring and the career guidance problem. Because a lot of these people do not have anybody to hold their hands. A lot of professionals, unfortunately, people from our class keep talking about it, but we never try to reach out to those madaris, sit with those poor students, talk to them, and see what their problems are. At least I know that I have given, or I have arranged scholarships for at least around 10 or 15 students just during last 3 weeks or a month who wanted to pursue formal education. They were the madaris graduates. One of them is doing chartered accountancy now, 2 or 3 are going into master's program, and so on and so forth. So, once you reach out to them, do not expect them to reach out to you. We have to reach out to the madaris students, number one. Number two is that at the institution level, there's a trust deficit between the system of madaris and the state, because most of the time, this institutional reform, the enlightened moderation, etc., is a very strong element of foreign hand. Now, whether it is correct or not, to a certain extent it is correct, to a certain extent it's homegrown. So I think that we have to have an organic, homegrown, customized solution for the madaris to go to the next level. And for that, the most important thing, that's what, based on my own personal experience, is the trust deficit. If you go and talk, if you go and with these madaris, at least I can tell you 90 to 90% of them will respond positively. But there is such a huge gap between the state, between the business community and the madaris, that gap is not being bridged. Once the madaris people that have that trust, that these guys are not coming in with any sinister agenda, they don't have any agenda of their own, they are more than welcome. Basically, they welcome you with open hands. At least 95%, I tell you, to basically to come to them, to work with them, to educate their students in the computer. But it's our responsibility to reach out, and it is the state's responsibility to bridge the trust deficit. And instead of trying to impose upon the agenda, just open the world of opportunities. And then we have to go to the root cause as well. Pakistan has a dysfunctional education system. We have to realize that. Pakistan is a dysfunctional education system, number one, and Pakistan has one of the highest rates of malnutrition in the world. The people who are sitting in these madrasas, it's the only hope for shelter, education, and food. If the system does not exist, you create an alternative now, and people will stop going to madrasa. But is there an alternative available? No alternative. So these are some of the fundamentals that we have to look at before we comment upon the madrasa system and see what's actually happening on the ground.
Thank you, Noaman. The part 2 of it is about Balochistan and uplifting. It's mentioned in the chat as well, if you can go through that. And meanwhile, Hasan, did you want to add something to it before we move to the next question?
Dr. Rabia, I think Noaman has summed it up really well. I think he has clearly explained that we can't do away with the madrasa system. We have to nurture those children. We have to make sure that we reach out to them and understand what is it that they are having in terms of education. We have been, as a nation, I believe we have reached a point where we've become big critics of everything in this country. We will malign the madrasa institution, the madrasa system, but we fail to realize that it is thriving in Pakistan because of the fact that we have not been able to give a better alternative. So let's be honest with ourselves that the fault lies with us. So I think this is a very worthy consideration, and I hope that somebody takes these into account and does something meaningful to mainstream the madrasa system, so that these children can also become a part of Pakistan's social infrastructure.
Thank you so much. I would kindly request everybody to keep their mics closed because it interferes with the answers. until you're asked to unmute. Aska, I would now move to you. Please ask your question, unmute yourself, and ask your question.
Thank you, ma'am. I am Aska, and I'm a student at the School of Integrated Social Sciences in Lahore, at the University of Lahore. And my question is directed towards Mr. Hassan, especially regarding the last remarks he made about youth security and what the country owes to them in respect to their rights, etc. So whenever I discuss this with someone, I am not being given these opportunities, or my rights aren't secure over here. What the rebuttal I get is that I should do something. And one thing that is one phrase that is often quoted is when JF Kennedy said, "Ask not what the country can do for you, but rather what you can do for the country." So where do you think Pakistan lies in respect to this? Should we expect something from the country, or should we be given something? Should we do something, or should we be given something first in order to make us capable? Thank you.
Thank
Aska,
you.
thank you.
Hassan,
Yeah.
before you answer, I just want to clarify, Aska, I've never quoted JFK to you, right? I'm not the one you're talking about.
No. I think Aska has asked a beautiful question. Aska, thank you very much for this. Allow me to say this much, that JFK was addressing a nation in which people had already been given a number of privileges. He said this in the context of a situation that had arisen in the U.S. If I'm not wrong, the U.S. was going through some sort of an economic turmoil, and he was urging the people to come forward and do certain things for their country as opposed to waiting for the country to do something for them. To answer your question, let me be categorically blunt here. The country owes a bare minimum to its people. It is not your age in which people or the country expect something back from you. It is the country that owes you a decent education. It is the country that owes you job security. When I say job security, I do not mean the country will give you a job, but what I mean is it gives you the means through which you can stand on your feet. So if somebody argues with you, tell them that in the 21st century, countries that have a robust and working system, people are given certain privileges and certain rights. They are made to stand on their feet so that they can pursue their dreams. Pakistan's constitution talks about a number of fundamental rights. I believe that right to education, right to a decent sustenance is a fundamental right. It's as fundamental as any other right. So now this is the reality. Now let's go. Now this is the theory part of my answer, because this is how it should be. Now, when it comes to Pakistan, as you know, the country has limitations. So my speech is not going to make some people in the power corridor wake up and make Pakistan a welfare state and give you your education or make sure that all the youth of Pakistan get their dreams fulfilled. So what is it that you need to do? What you need to do is you need to create awareness of this idea that Pakistan as a state owes certain fundamental rights to its people, including to you. And number two, you have to start doing, whatever it takes for you to develop your career, assuming that the state does not have the means to support you. Because Pakistan currently is going through a bad economic situation. As we know, there is a political vacuum in the country. The economy is in a turmoil. Now, just because the country is going through a bad phase does not mean that you will also not do something about your own future. You have to get up. You have to start, as I said earlier in the first part of my speech, read up, reach out to your mentors, people who can guide you, people who can be the replacement for those institutions, if I may use the word, who can help you in your future. So reach out to people, reach out to Dr. Rabia Akhtar, reach out to me, Noaman, people who can guide you, who can tell you what is it that you can do. So JFK was right, but he was right in a specific context. That context does not apply to Pakistan. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Noaman, would you want to chip in and also get back to the Balochistan question that was posed to you?
Yeah, I think I fully agree with Hassan that everything is said and done is in the right context. And I believe that God has created a level playing field for everyone. And it is the responsibility of the system to act, to give up all the basic facilities to all its citizens. Pakistan who care what's happening in Pakistan for such a long time, that the people who, by virtue of their privilege or by talent or whatever, they're the top tier one for whatever reason, they excel and then they go out of Pakistan. Unfortunately, bulk of it, and what we normally call brain drain. The kind of question Aska raised, what happened? All the brilliant students, the bright students, which are desperately needed in the country, in-house, they go out. So I think this kind of frustration has to end. We have to create, and there are, the reason the youth has so much frustration, there are so many reasons behind it. There are so many factors. For example, as I said earlier about the political uncertainty. Pakistan is politically such an unstable country that it's even frustrating for people who are in the middle of our careers. Okay, that we don't even know that what's happening, what's going to happen a year down the road. I just gave an example that even for the next 6 months to a year, the political confrontation doesn't seem to be ending. So these are some genuine problems, and there is no straight answer. But as Hassan rightly said, it is the state's responsibility to give basic rights, to give a level playing field for all the citizens. Coming to Balochistan, again, I firmly believe that Balochistan's problems cannot be solved, whether it's what you call insurgency or law and order or whatever name, euphemistic name you take. The problems cannot be solved unless Balochistan develops socio-economically. Balochistan's human development indicators are like that of sub-Saharan Africa. Unless we very aggressively on a war footing invest in the education and health sector, in the infrastructure of Balochistan, all these problems of Balochistan are not going to end. So Pakistan, I think I again and again say, and that's the whole idea of economic security, looking at things not from economic planning, but from an economic security perspective, and let's call it socio-economic security perspective, that we have to invest in the key sectors of the economy and society on a war footing over a period of next 5 to 7 years, so that we can survive. It's not only about the achieving growth of 5 and 6%, and that's also a different topic altogether, that how do we achieve that growth and how to make that growth sustainable, etc., etc. But this forum is not suited for that. I go into so many details about that. But the most important thing is that we have to fix our basics. It's not about going into creating rockets or space or excelling in the space science. Right now, most important thing, you just said a while ago that we are a net consumer of knowledge. Why is it that? Because we don't have enough institutions which are imparting top quality education. If you look at the 5 or 10 top institutions that we have in the country, a very high number of their grads go out of the country. So how the country is going to survive? And I think there's another. I recommended a practical solution to it some time ago, and that was basically that every institution that you create, basically, it takes around 10, 15 years to develop, to create its footing, to create its brand image. So instead of just waiting for just 10, 15 years lapse, what we should do, what the state should do, basically, that take just top 10 institutions of the country, okay, and make 5 branches each across the country, in each province, for example. So automatically, what can happen if these institutions which have faculty members, which have systems and procedures and curriculum and standing and etc., and which are recognized universally as well, automatically instead of 10 places of learning, we will have 50 places of learning. So this is one fast-track model of improving our tertiary education system. So we have to think out of the box, come up with creative solutions. How can we do? And I think a lot can be done in next 10 years' time. It's just a matter of proper planning and creative thinking. That's why, I was just before the call, I was telling you, Rabia, why I chose the name of my company, Wiseman, that we have to combine wisdom with creativity. Wisdom does not only mean ancient wisdom. We have to be creative and out of the box as well. Pakistan needs some out of the box solutions. Unfortunately, we are sticking for too long with our status quo, tried and tested politicians, systems, and leadership. We have to go get out of that status quo mindset.
Absolutely, Noaman, and I really like the X factor in your wise man, and it's right up there. Hassan, there's a question that's posed to you in the chat. And that question is from Hassan Rashid, who is a research associate at CSSPR. And he is asking about the abysmal state of startup culture in Pakistan. So we are talking about a lot of positivity, but there is a lot of structural impediments that youngsters face. For example, he's given this poster child airlift, which had to wrap up its operations, was doing so well. But so how does one have hope about startups and entrepreneurial future in Pakistan when, there is inflation, there are institutional barriers for business, the ease of doing business is not that easy in Pakistan. How do you look at the future of entrepreneurship, especially given the fact if companies like Airlift are suffering because of a lot of issues? So how do you look at that? Over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Rabia. This is, it's heartbreaking for me to see companies exit Pakistan because unfortunately, Pakistan does not provide them with the ecosystem, and there is no foundational groundwork done by the state to make sure that it rewards creativity. Now, this is something that is extremely unfortunate. And this is why I do believe, to use Noaman's word, there will be a brain drain in the future unless we correct course. I'll give you an example. When I did my master's from the US, when I applied to Harvard Law School back in 2007, which is decades ago, they did not ask me if I'm a Pakistani. I mean, they of course knew it, but they did not do a background check on my affiliations and whether I was falling into the UN-sponsored Al-Qaeda and Taliban sanctions regime. They gave me a full scholarship, and they also did not ask me if I would stay back in the US. They never did that. I graduated from there. I came out of the country. I left it. I've maintained a relationship because I believe I owe to them something because they have given me that thing, for my future. Unfortunately, in Pakistan, you don't have that. My best advice to juniors, people who have that entrepreneurial spirit in them, is to connect with somebody like Noaman. And I'm not saying it because he's like a brother to me, but he's somebody who really can guide them. This is not my area. Economy is not my area. All I can say is that we can connect you to people. I do have my little network in Pakistan. Noaman has his network. We both try and uplift people as much as we can. All the people in this chat room who are here, you're more than welcome to reach out to me if you want to pursue law. I mean, I'm more than happy to guide you. I'll spend my time to do that. If you want to set up a technology tower or something in IT, I'll run 10 miles away from you because I'm a tech dinosaur. I'll, pass you over to Noaman or somebody else. But if you want to do something in law, if you want guidance, if you want to write a research paper, if you want to red pen your draft, guide you, I'm always here for you 24/7. So feel free to reach out to me. But in terms of economy, in terms of what is it that you can do in a system like Pakistan that literally drains you, it saps you of your creativity. Noaman and I do a lot of projects together, and to this day it surprises me, and Noaman, correct me if I'm wrong, but there are days when we literally sit together and we say, okay, yaar, ye kaisa mulk hai jahan pe aap mulk ke liye kuch karna cha rahe ho, you're trying to do something and you're not asking the country for money, you're literally doing it out of your own pocket. You want to help the country stand on its feet, but then you will see people coming out who will literally make you feel as if you're doing something that will harm the country. I mean, it's mind-boggling. But guys, look, let me say it again. It's our country. We have no choice. We have, I at least have one passport and I will keep only that passport. All of you, don't give up. Try doing whatever you can. Reach out to your mentors, people who can help you. Noaman, for example, is the right person for, the economy. I'm the guy for law. Dr. Rabia, I know you do a lot for students. So let's create a little network, guys. Let's try and do whatever we can to help each other. These juniors who are our assets, we owe it to them. We need to give back to them so that they feel secure. They know that there is someone out there who's going to be taking care of them and who will always be there if they want to discuss something.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Hasan, for that. We are working in our individual capacities, but I think we need to join hands and do that too. Noaman, did you want to say something?
Yeah, on the startup side, The number one startup country in the world is US, and then comes Israel. Okay, Israel is second after the Silicon Valley, and of course India and some other countries. Now Turkey is catching up very fast. So there are a few reasons for why Pakistan is failing in the startup system. Startups fail all over the world. Pakistan's problem, in my opinion, is yes, we do not have the right ecosystem, right? Yes, we do not have the right taxation system either. Again, I'm not going into the details of the taxation of the ecosystem that we have, but problem is that, again, I'll come back to the same point, is the education part. We are not producing enough the right quality, rightly trained IT and business professionals, and the BizTech, I would say, the professions who can combine business and technology, who can create a number of startups. You know, there's a rule of thumb, you can say, that of all the startups conceived anywhere in the world, only 10% basically see light of the day. Then 10% actually come into existence. Of the 10% which come into existence, again, 90% of them fail. 90% of them fail. Which you are remaining only with 1%. So, you know, for that, we have to have a very large number of startups who basically are coming out. But of them, one of them may be a unicorn. So first of all, we have to create a culture, a mindset that all these students who are in the university level, they try to have their business, whether in the technology space or in the business space of their own, number one. So we have to increase the number. It's a numbers game. You see, from a pure mathematical, from a pure business perspective, it's a numbers game. We have to have a very large number of startups, number one. Yes, ecosystem has to improve, and a lot is happening. Our Pakistan ecosystem is lagging behind severely, but I feel that since a lot of work is happening, and now the government also realizes that technology is the only scapegoat, I would say, is the only savior for us. So basically, I think that next 1 year or so, or 1 or 2 years, the ecosystem is going to improve. Number two. But again, if we are not producing enough rightly graduated, rightly qualified people, then it might be a problem. I know a lot of people who are going to UAE, for example, and setting up their offices over there and start doing their startup over there. A lot of Pakistani people. Why not in Pakistan? There is no reason we can't do it in Pakistan. It is very much doable. We just have to, you know, number one, improve the state of education, improve the ecosystem, change the mindset, and that's it. I don't see any problem per se. And of course, a lot of students need guidance on how to do the startup part. I see that the mentoring part and the guidance part is lacking like anything over here. Like, for example, I have done mentoring sessions with the startups and technology companies in Jordan, in Saudi Arabia, in Oman, in Malaysia. I've been speaking on this particular topic with a lot of countries. I've been sitting face to face with these startups, because I do a lot of fintech and technology and business advisory work as part of my investment advisory practice. So basically what I see that one of the reasons these startups fail, they are very bad in doing the market research. So Pakistani startups, for example, when I go to them and I talk to them, they're not structured. A lot of the students who are what they are doing a part-time job, and साथ में मिलके जो है on a sideline, they're also doing a startup as well. You have to be structured. You know how to test the market, how to develop a prototype product, how to test a prototype product, how to talk to the market players. There's some of the very basics of fundamentals missing. I think the young entrepreneurs, the college and university grads need a lot of mentoring from that perspective.
Thank you so much, Noaman. So we have 3 more questions lined up. So I'm going to take all 3 questions together and then distribute it to both of you. Maimuna, over to you. Kindly please unmute yourself and ask the question, please.
There was one in the chat box as well on the iPad.
Yes, we can get back to that. Yeah. Maimuna, over to you. Please unmute yourself.
Thank you very much for letting me ask my question. Thank you very much, and it's a great opportunity for having such great leaders, you can say. My question is basically that first thing is that there is always a difference between the education sector. Like some of us who go for intermediate studies, and some of us join O levels and then they continue with the A levels. But that makes a difference in the patterns of thinking and mental caliber. So we've already asked this question before, but we could not get any proper answer to that. I'm not talking about this session, but we could not get any proper answer, because there was a thing mentioned that there will always remain a gap between these 2 sectors. So my question is, seriously, is this really an answer to our question? Like, will there be always a gap in these two structures which we're following, the O levels education and the intermediate education we have? Like there is a lot difference if we see the syllabi. The
Yeah.
O level books, Oxford, Cambridge, they teach, and they extend their they extend their views, their perspectives, their it opens their minds. But the syllabus we follow, the PTB books especially, so that is I mean, we come to see a huge difference. So my question is that this gap going to be there always? So I want to.
Thank you so much, Maimuna. I'll move to the next questions. I'll collect all of them and then I'll let Hasan and Noaman answer. Thank you, Maimuna. Over to Ajmal, please.
Thank you, ma'am. My question from Mr. Hassan Aslam is that what are the tangible things you will refer to as, or we can count as, soft revolution over the last 5 to 10 years? And my second question from Mr. Noaman is that national security policy focuses a lot on the economic aspect. So you have proposed the Economic Security Council. Don't you think that the stuff provided in the national security policy covers the economic aspect well and would be okay if we are implementing all those, or separately we do need an Economic Security Council? Thank you.
Thank you, Ajmal. We couldn't understand your first question. Can you write it in the chat, please, while I move on to the next
Okay,
person?
right.
The second question as well, I couldn't hear either.
Noaman, just wait a second before let me just finish this round. Amaz, over to you, please.
Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Rabia and Hassan Aslam Shad and our next guest. सर मैं ये पर्टिकुलर क्वेश्चन हसन असलम से करना चाह रहा हूँ. सर मैं लॉ का स्टूडेंट हूँ यूनिवर्सिटी ऑफ लॉ में, तो 6th सेमेस्टर से मेरा चल रहा है नाउ. सर मोर देन ईयर हो गया मुझे, मैं इंटर्नशिप कर रहा हूँ, मैं एक फॉर्म में जा रहा हूँ और कोर्ट्स को निज़ाम को देख रहा हूँ. आई मीन रनिंग फ्रॉम वन कोर्ट टू अदर, वेयरिंग ब्लैक कोट्स एंड स्कॉचिंग हीट. इट्स वेरी टफ एंड आई सैल्यूट लॉयर्स फॉर दैट. सर लेकिन जो मेरा क्वेश्चन है वो पर्टिकुलर ये है कि स्पीडी जस्टिस सिस्टम ऑफ पाकिस्तान से. सर मैंने लोगों को देखा है कोर्ट्स के अंदर जो कि मोर देन 30 ईयर्स से सफ़र कर रहे हैं, और जब मैं उनके चेहरे देखता हूँ तो लिटरली मुझे बड़ी तरस आता है कि इनको क्यों इंसाफ नहीं मिल रहा. लास्ट वीक मैं कोर्ट में था तो वहाँ पे एक बेवा आई हुई थी जिसका केस कोई चल रहा है पता नहीं 40 साल से. तो इस तरह के तेरे लोग हैं जो भरे हुए हैं, तो हम पाकिस्तान के अंदर लोगों को सर क्यों स्पीडी जस्टिस सिस्टम प्रोवाइड नहीं कर सक रहे और हमारा सिस्टम उसके ऊपर क्यों नहीं वर्क कर रहा. एंड सेकंड थिंग सर जो मैं एज अ स्टूडेंट ऑफ लॉ फेस कर रहा हूँ यहाँ पे, और मैंने देखा है, जो मैंने फील किया है इन पाकिस्तान, पीपल आर स्केयर्ड ऑफ अस. लॉयर्स से लोग डरे हुए हैं. ऐसा क्यों हो रहा है सर? आई डोंट नो व्हाई. क्योंकि मैं एक जगह गया, मुझे रेंट पे घर लेना था अपनी फैमिली के लिए. आई वेंट up to him and I said, I'm doing law from University of Law, and he actually ran away hearing that I'm a lawyer and I'm a student of law. What the hell? But literally डरते हैं. ये क्यों हो रहा है सर? मेरे 2 क्वेश्चन हैं सर जो कि मैं आपसे पूछना चाह रहा हूँ और मुझे इसका जवाब कहीं नहीं. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so much, Maz. So what I'm going to do is, firstly, Hasan, you can answer the question जो मैमूना ने पोस्ट किया कि जो डिफरेंस है हमारे एजुकेशनल मीडियम्स में, जो इंग्लिश मीडियम है, उर्दू मीडियम है, प्लस OA लेवल्स की स्ट्रीम है और आपकी मैट्रिक की और FSC की स्ट्रीम है, बिकॉज दे आर फेड डिफरेंट सिलेबसेस, देयर मीडियम ऑफ टीचिंग इज डिफरेंट, क्वालिटी इज डिफरेंट. तो वो जो गैप रह जाता है जब ये दोनों बच्चे आके कॉलेज के लेवल पे या यूनिवर्सिटी के लेवल पे compete करते हैं, तो OA लेवल स्टूडेंट्स डेफिनेटली हैव एन एज over the metric and FSC. तो उनका क्वेश्चन आपसे ये था कि ये गैप कब तक चलेगा और why does this gap exist? So you can answer this question and also take Maz's question, and there is one more जो अजमल साहब ने आपके लिए पोस्ट किया है चैट में भी. Over to you.
मैं इस क्वेश्चन को पहले आंसर करने की कोशिश करता हूँ. ये बहुत ही अनफॉर्चुनेट चीज है हमारे मुल्क में कि एक सिस्टम जो है वो आपको गेयर करता है फॉर फॉरेन एजुकेशन और दूसरा सिस्टम जो है वो एक रोड लर्निंग पे बेस्ड है. बाय द वे गाइस, आई एम द प्रोडक्ट ऑफ अ रोड लर्निंग सिस्टम. आई वेंट टू अ वेरी बेसिक मीडियोकर स्कूल. आई लर्नड, हमारे यहाँ भी रोड लर्निंग होती थी. एक जो बेनिफिट था ना मुझे जिंदगी में हमेशा रहा, जो मैंने अपने अंदर एक चीज इनकलकेट की, वो ये कि मैंने, एंड दिस आंसर्स द क्वेश्चन ऑफ द लॉ स्टूडेंट जिन्होंने मुझे सवाल पूछा, और उनके जवाब भी है जिन्होंने कहा है कि 2 सिस्टम क्यों है. वो ये है कि मैंने जिंदगी में ये रियलाइज किया है कि बारिंग अ फ्यू टीचर्स एंड प्रोफेसर्स, आई एम माई बेस्ट प्रोफेसर. आप एक बात को अगेन आई रिपीट इट, यू आर योर बेस्ट प्रोफेसर. मैंने आपको 3 चीजें शुरू में कही थी, इंफॉर्मेशन, नॉलेज एंड विजडम. इंफॉर्मेशन इज आउट देयर, it's in millions and millions of bytes. You have to derive some knowledge out of it, and then you have to go up the ladder of wisdom. ये सब कुछ आपको इंटरनेट पे अवेलेबल है. आज आप अगर जाके देखें गूगल के ऊपर, आपको हर चीज मिलेगी. यू विल फाइंड रिसर्च पेपर्स, you will find academic material, you name it, everything is there. All you need to do is you need to go to somebody educated, somebody who has been through it, and ask them for guidance. उसके लिए हम लोग अवेलेबल है यहाँ पे. जहां तक इस सवाल का ताल्लुक है कि ये सिस्टम कब तक चलता रहेगा, honestly I have no idea. I can't opine on that. It's very unfortunate, but again I repeat, don't let that get to you. These are the cards that fate has dealt you. This is the ground reality. Unfortunately we have to bear with it. मेरे ख्याल में equal opportunity, level playing field is the duty of the state. It is the duty. मतलब मैं इसको एम्फसाइज नहीं कर सकता. आज हमारी जो हालत है पाकिस्तान की और बाकी मुसलमान ममालिक की, अगर आप इसको एक दीनी तनाजुर में भी देखें, आज हम जो है वी आर लिटरली like at the rock bottom today, and there is absolutely no other reason for that other than the fact that we have given up on education and educational excellence. मैं हमेशा एक छोटी सी बात करूंगा, मैं हमेशा इसराइल की एग्जांपल देता हूं. आई एम अ बिग फैन ऑफ Israel, by the way, not to recognize them, but the fact that there is so much political turmoil in the country, but look at the state, it continues to thrive in the world. And why? There is only one simple reason, that is academic excellence, guys. Academic excellence. अगर आपको मौके नहीं मिल रहे, अगर आपका सिस्टम रिग्ड है, जिसके अंदर जो है अमीर के लिए एक कानून है, गरीब के लिए एक कानून है, और वो सवाल पूछ रहे थे कानून वाला, उसमें मैं अभी आता हूं, लेकिन इस सिस्टम के अंदर आपने अपने आप को एजुकेट करना है. गाइस, स्टार्ट रीडिंग अप. Read up, spend day in, day out reading up material. If you need guidance, as I said earlier, Dr. Rabia has my email. I will guide you, I will train you. अब लास्ट बात मैं करूंगा, जो उन्होंने सवाल पूछा था, अभी एक यंग लॉ स्टूडेंट है, वो कहते हैं कि मैं बड़ा डिसअपॉइंट होता हूं जब मैं जाता हूं, देखता हूं सिस्टम को. देखिए, प्रॉब्लम ये है कि हमारे मुल्क का सबसे बड़ा अलमिया ये है कि हमारा कोई अपना निजाम नहीं है. वी आर अ कॉलोनियल लेगेसी. जब आप किसी चलते हुए सिस्टम को अडॉप्ट करते हो ना, और आपके जो मास्टर्स होते हैं या जो इन्वेंटर्स होते हैं वो चले जाते हैं, तो देन यू आर कंफ्यूज्ड. हमारा ये प्रॉब्लम है कि हमें एक कवानीन मिल गए. आप हमारा कॉन्ट्रैक्ट्स एक्ट देख लें, मेरा ख्याल 1878 का है, उसके अलावा बाकी लॉज देख लें, सारे पुराने हैं, उस जमाने के तनाजुर में बने थे, हमने उसी को अडॉप्ट कर लिया. हमारा प्रॉब्लम ये हुआ कि हमारे सर के ऊपर से जो था ना, हाथ उठ गया, और हमें उसके बाद समझ नहीं आई कि हम करें क्या. इसलिए हमारे मुल्क के अंदर जो है इंसाफ की भी कमी है. आप सही कह रहे थे कि आप कोर्ट्स में जाते हैं, वहां जाके आपको एक बड़ी अनफॉर्चुनेट, एक बड़ी, जिसे कहते हैं ना, एक बड़ी इंसान को एक घिन भी आती है, अफसोस भी होता है. लेकिन एक बात जहन में रखिएगा कि ये सारी चीजें जो हैं, दे शुड ट्राई एंड अवॉइड देम एज मच एज पॉसिबल. एजुकेट योरसेल्फ. ये जो लॉ एक ऐसी फील्ड है जिसके अंदर आप जिंदगी में बहुत सारी चीजें कर सकते हैं, हजार चीजें आप कर सकते हैं. You can become a writer, you can become a political activist, you can become an expert within the law. यानी ये भी हो सकता है कि आप कल को कॉर्पोरेट, कमर्शियल, M&A के लॉयर बन जाए, आपको कोर्ट्स जाना ना पड़े. इट ऑल डिपेंड्स ऑन योर लाइकिंग. तो इसलिए मैं हमेशा एक बात कहता हूं, मैं रिपीट करूंगा उसको बार बार, प्लीज डू नॉट लिमिट योरसेल्फ. Explore your potential. God has given you such unprecedented powers that you have no idea. मैं भी उसी स्कूल की पैदावार हूं जिसके ऊपर आज आप क्रिटिसाइज कर रहे हैं. I alhamdulillah ended up going to the best universities in the world, but there was only one thing I did to myself, which was I never accepted any limits in life. Don't tie yourself down कि यार ये कह रहे हैं. अच्छा, sorry, last thing, Dr. Rabia, I'm sorry I've taken up so much of your time. आप एक काम कीजिए, जब आप कभी भी लॉ की बुक को पढ़ते हैं पाकिस्तान की, उसको पढ़िए क्योंकि वो मजबूरी है. लेकिन उस किताब के अंदर 99% आपको कुछ भी नहीं मिलेगा. उसकी जगह आप इंटरनेशनल आर्टिकल्स पढ़ें, अपनी एजुकेशन को एनहांस करें. जब आप ये करेंगे, इंशाल्लाह यू विल बिकम अ वेरी वेरी गुड रिफाइंड प्रोडक्ट. ठीक है, थैंक यू.
Thank you so much, Hassan. You can get back to one question जो रह गया है उनका अजमल साहब का आपको chat में लिखा हुआ है. You can also choose to reply him in the chat about what are some of the tangibles of the revolution, you know, over the past couple of years as you see it. I'll move on to Noaman. Noaman, आपके लिए भी question है, you know, कि national security policy, does it not cover the grounds completely that you've talked about, Economic Security Council? So uske bare mein, you know, if you want to give some comments, and also any of the comments that you want to make to the other questions that have been posed.
Two things. One is the economic security thing, and there was a question in the chat box on the why these successive governments. So I have to go back to IMF again and again. Okay, I'll answer both the questions. Both are related, but let me separate it. Okay, economic security, the concept of economic security as envisaged in national security policy, it's a policy document. You know, as Pakistanis again, especially our government, where we lack sometimes, where we lack all the times, I think, instead, that we do not differentiate between policy and strategy. Policy is one thing, strategy and action plan is a different thing. So what we have basically is a policy document which gives a very high level overview. National security policy, although yes, it sets the direction, but it's a very, very high level document which gives you, okay, what needs to be done, what ought to be done, okay? Now how to implement the recommendations contained in the national security policy about the economic security, how do you basically contain, how do you implement those recommendations? For that, you need a National Economic Security Council. Now, some people may ask that why not Economic Planning Division and Planning Commission, all these people. I think these guys, that even if they are competent enough, they have too much on the table. They are deeply mired into the bureaucracy, in the capitism. Most of the time, they do not have the right resources. They have a lot of political influence. And there's so many things happening in the same time that they are unable to focus on the keys, the top priority for this. So I think that the prioritization does not happen in these institutions. And therefore, we need a coordination mechanism or policy body and a project management body like National Security Council, who can basically oversee and ensure the implementation of the critical projects on time, number one. Number two, there was a question in the chat box. I don't know if the gentleman is still hanging around or not. It was on the IMF thing, basically why the successive governments have to go to IMF again and again. You see, remember one thing, that right now we are into the 22nd IMF program, and the Pakistan's basic problems in the 22nd program are same as what were in the first program, because Pakistan has not systematically addressed the issues due to which Pakistan has to go back to IMF. It's a long thing. Like, for example, the trade deficit and the current account deficit, and why are we so slow on the service exports, blah, blah, blah. But the thing is that anybody, any leader, regardless of political party, who tells you कि मैं IMF के पास नहीं जाऊंगा, तो वो बिल्कुल वैसे ही कि मैं लंदन नहीं जाऊंगा या मैं पंजाब नहीं जाऊंगी, उसमें इतनी ही सच्चाई है. बात ये है कि anybody who tells you मैं IMF के पास नहीं जाऊंगा, उससे ये पूछें, ask him what plan do you have not to go to IMF. And unfortunately, we haven't seen any leadership, any person, any political party to come up with a credible plan that how not to go to IMF. Remember one thing, that if you decide as a nation today that you don't want to go to IMF, then you have to plan it for 3 years at least, that how to make sure that 3 years down the road, we are not going to go to the IMF. And if anybody tells you that tomorrow when I come into power, I'm not going to go to the IMF, then he's just a demagogue, he's a charlatan, he's lying. It's practically not possible. They have to go to IMF because there are so many structural issues Pakistan has. Unless you do fix those issues, it's not going to happen. And I think it will take at least 2 3 years basically to ensure that we don't have to go back to IMF again. So if you at least have medium-term planning and program, which is implemented aggressively, there is no political instability in the country, we have the right team of professionals, the decisions are based on merit and on economic ground instead of political grounds. I think in 3 years' time, we can hope that we won't have to go back to multinational institutions, especially IMF again.
Thank you so much, Noaman. I think we are in for a movie which says "मैं अमेरिका नहीं जाऊंगा." So let's see. So we have time for one last question before we wrap this up. Over to you, Ali Jafar.
Um, Thank you, Hassan and Noaman, for this excellent talk. And let me also say that Hassan is, like he said, I'm like a younger brother to him, and Hassan is like an elder brother to me, and a very good friend.
Or the
And
other way
guys,
around.
when Hassan says that he will um, make sure of guiding you in whatever capacity he can, take him seriously, because he will actually guide you through and through. So if you have anything related to law or anything where Pakistan's betterment comes into the equation, Hassan is one of the go-to men in that regard. Okay, so Hassan, we have had many a conversation on these topics on a daily basis, rather. So my question is, you talked about the fact that states owe a lot to their people, and it is our right to demand of the state uh, protection, security, conduits of development. One of the principal elements of this soft revolution, which is not soft, it's a bit hard, and it's not soft. So one of the elements of that particular revolution is that now people are much more aware, and they are in a much better position to hold their leaders to account. They quickly pounce on to anything which suggests that their monies are being used for, taxpayer money is being used for funding Umrah trips, funding Hajj trips, giving dole out to media personalities, giving freebies to you know whom. So how do you how where do you pin this? How do you look at this excellent and great change where the people of Pakistan, the Hoyo Palayo, if I were to call it, uncles, aunties, young children, young girls, professors, doctors, now they are concerned about court proceedings. They're concerned about what the judges are saying. They're concerned about how their tax money is being used. So I would like your thoughts on this.
Ali, thank you very much for this very difficult to answer question. It really doesn't depend anymore as to what side of the political aisle we stand on today, because there is a certain inherent basic awareness that has sort of permeated through the fabric of Pakistani society. As you rightly mentioned, people ask about court proceedings. People say, why are you not giving me these rights? And these rights, or the demand for these rights, is not necessarily linked with a particular individual or a political party or a political leader. Now, this is a very good development in society if you look at it from the perspective of our growth as a nation. But it's also something that should make us scared. It should make us rethink and reimagine what is it that we are doing for the people. Because if you let people's grievances, their demands, their assertion of their rights unaddressed, then that can lead to discontent in society. And it's a distinct possibility. Whatever revolution or fast tracked evolution, as I used the word earlier, has happened in society is the result of certain demands that have been left unaddressed. Now, I've been thinking about what is it that we can do in a broken and rigged system like Pakistan. And I've come up with this theme called cluster of change. We need to create islands of change within Pakistan. And what do I mean by islands of change? I'll give you an example. If we have a student who has joined this panel discussion today who wants to achieve or wants to pursue law, but is completely confused as to where to go, who to look to for guidance and all that, that person can come to somebody like me who's willing to help with whatever little I know about law. Similarly, in your area of public policy, international relations, somebody, who wants to pursue that trajectory in their career, they can come to you. So we have to create these clusters of change. If I can share with you one of my dreams that I have, which I've honestly never shared with anyone, and I'm probably going to do it today on this platform, is I one day want to create one of the top 10 law schools in Pakistan, in the world. This is my dream, and I want to pursue it because I believe that the biggest, catalysts of change in society have been lawyers. अभी एक young lawyer थे जिन्होंने एक बड़ी खूबसूरत बात की. He said कि when I told them I'm a lawyer, they ran away a mile from me, people. And this is unfortunate. But remember, instead of laughing at those lawyers, we need to laugh at ourselves, Ali. Because this is what we have given them as a society. If people are running away from lawyers, the mistake lies with us. We should be ashamed as a nation that we have not been able to give our law students, that quality education which will make them hold their heads high. So, Ali, to answer your question, it's a very difficult path ahead. It will take a lot of our grit, resilience, but that's what we are left with. And, that's something that is innate, it's inbuilt. We have to give our youth that platform. We have to create clusters of change. For example, if there's a young entrepreneur who wants an entry in the market, guys, let's connect him to 10, 15, 20 people who are looking to help people. Hamare mulk ke andar, bhai, there are hundreds and thousands of people who are wanting to help people. The problem is there is no one connecting them. Maybe you, me, Dr. Rabia, Noaman, and others can become that bridge who connects them to those people. यार इस एज में ना अली, जब आप एक स्टूडेंट होते हो, आपको थोड़ी सी अगर आपको इंस्पिरेशन और गाइडेंस मिल जाए ना, you can scale the heights, yaar. I mean, I've seen people, literally who had nothing, who had given up on life, who believe that they have, they're very mediocre, and they have become stellar students. I have one of my students, she's, mashallah, recently done something from the International Criminal Court. She's a Moroccan student. And she's a young girl who's 22. She's got 3 degrees under her belt, yaar. मतलब है, लोग, human potential भाई इतना immense है कि हम उसको imagine नहीं कर सकते. All we need to do is just give them our pinky, tell them कि यार देखो, we are here to help you, we are here to guide you. Reach out to us with your questions, and then we will take it from there. So to summarize, Pakistan is a rigged, a broken system. It has an elite capture, but you and I and others, like-minded people, have to come forward, and we have to change the system. We have no choice, unfortunately.
Beautifully articulated, Hassan, as always. And I am also a witness of as to how you're always there to help. You're in conversation with one of our doctoral students, Anaya, who is an LL.M. And is working on a very fascinating topic. And you have been, giving her your time of the day. And I'm really grateful for that. Just last 2 questions for which I just need a yes or a no from both of you. And probably we need another sitting for as to why you're saying a yes or a no. So my question to both of you is, number 1, Pakistan's future is uncertain. Is it a yes or a no statement?
No, it's very certain.
Okay, Noaman?
I think it's yes, it's uncertain at this point in time.
Okay, all right. So Hassan says it's certain and Noaman says it's uncertain. My second question is, Pakistan's youth is ready for change, a yes or a no? Hassan, you can speak first.
Yes, I believe Pakistan's youth is all ready for change, provided they are shown the path towards which they need to tread.
Fair enough.
I think Pakistani youth are absolutely ready for change. Absolutely. They are very well oriented. And the biggest risk as a country that I see that if we don't guide them, if you don't utilize this youth, then there'll be a humongous amount of brain drain in the coming years. And we'll lose a lot of highly talented people. So I think we need to utilize, country needs these people. So that's why we have to create a situation that their talents and their skills and energy is used for the country, but they are absolutely ready for change.
All right, that's really great. It's okay that we don't know whether Pakistan's future is certain or uncertain, but we are absolutely sure that the youth of Pakistan are ready for change. And that's a fascinating way to wrap up this conversation with positivity for a future. And youth, as we all know, Pakistan, 64% of youth is our future, and we're all here to help them achieve their potential. With this, I would like to thank both of you for your time and your fascinating conversation. And I will, with your permission, whosoever approaches me will share your contact details so that they can write to you and learn more from you and engage with you. And even conversations like these are extremely important because we've stopped talking to each other. And we need more avenues where people can just come and say their, whatever is in their heart without, fearing as to what the reprimand would be from the other side. And that's what we try to do at University of Lahore through this Young Leaders Program. We are hosting conversations like these. Thank you so much once again on behalf of the University of Lahore and CSSPR. I really enjoyed the conversation. And I look forward to continuing our conversations in the future. Thank you, Hasan, and thank you, Noaman.
Thank you, Rabia. Thank you. Such a fantastic conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much to all the participants who were with us and for asking fantastic questions.